You know, sometimes living in the house you grew up in is the worst fucking thing. Every corner has a memory, and not all of them are good. Most of them, in fact, feel like ghosts that forgot to leave. My ghosts have names, though. Mark and Sarah. They live with me now. Moved in a few months after, to take care of me, that's what they said. Mark is my cousin, and Sarah has been my best friend since we were kids. They were there that night, the night it all went to shit. So I guess it makes sense. This morning was like every other morning. I came downstairs, and the smell of coffee was already in the air. Not my coffee, not the dark, almost burnt roast I like. It was Sarah's organic, fair trade, tastes like dirt coffee. She was at the stove, humming, her back to me. "Morning, Alex," she said, without turning around. She always knows. "I made you some eggs, scrambled, with spinach, good for the brain." I wanted to say, I want bacon and toast, and I want to make it myself. But the words they don't come out anymore. It's easier to just nod. "Thanks, Sar." Mark was already at the table, a newspaper spread out in front of him like he was some 50-year-old dad. He looked up and gave me that smile, the one that's all teeth. "Sleep okay, buddy?" He didn't wait for an answer. His eyes flicked to the little orange bottle on the counter, next to a glass of water. My morning pills. He slid it across the table towards my plate, a neat little row of 3 capsules. The white one for anxiety, the blue one for, I don't even know, something else. "Don't forget," he said, his voice dropping into that serious, caring tone he uses, like he's a doctor and I'm his most difficult patient. These fucking assholes. It's like they think I'm a 3-year-old. I took the pills, swallowing them down with the lukewarm water. They watched me do it. They always watch. I ate the green-flecked eggs. They tasted like wet grass. Later, as I was rinsing my plate, the floorboards above us creaked. A long, groaning sound. Just the old house settling, I know that. But my shoulders went tight anyway. My hand froze under the running water. Mark noticed. Of course he did. He was beside me in a second, one heavy hand clapping onto my shoulder. A little too hard. "Easy there, champ," he said, his voice a low rumble meant to be soothing, like he's a doctor and I'm his most difficult patient. These fucking assholes. It's like they think I'm a 3-year-old. I took the pills, swallowing them down with the lukewarm water. They watched me do it. They always watch. I ate the green-flecked eggs. They tasted like wet grass. Later, as I was rinsing my plate, the floorboards above us creaked. A long, groaning sound. Just the old house settling, I know that, but my shoulders went tight anyway. My hand froze under the running water. Mark noticed. Of course he did. He was beside me in a second, one heavy hand clapping onto my shoulder. A little too hard. "Easy there, champ," he said, his voice a low rumble meant to be soothing. "It's all good. We're here. No burglars getting in this time." He winked. Sarah from the living room called out, "That's right. You've got the best security team in the world." They were talking about that night, the night I turned 10. They always bring it back to that. The tall, thin shadow in the hallway, my scream, and then Mark and Sarah, my heroes, rushing in and scaring the guy away before he could do anything. It's the story they've told me 1,000 times, the story that explains me, why I'm like this. It's my foundation, my reason, and my prison. I forced a smile. Yeah, I know. The afternoon felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I decided to go for a drive, just get out, clear my head. I walked into the kitchen, heading for the small wooden bowl on the counter where I always drop my keys. It was empty. Okay, no big deal. I checked my pockets. Nothing. I went back upstairs, checked the nightstand, the top of my dresser. Nothing. A little knot of frustration started to twist in my gut. I never lose my keys. It's one of the few things I'm methodical about. I walked back down, trying to retrace my steps from last night. I came in, took off my jacket, put it on the hook. I checked the jacket pocket again. Still nothing. Looking for something? Sarah was leaning against the doorframe, holding a laundry basket. Her expression was one of soft, gentle pity. It's a look I know well. My car keys, I muttered, starting to get frantic. I know I left them on the counter. Oh, Alex, she sighed, a little puff of air. She walked over to the shoe rack by the front door, reached into a small decorative vase sitting on top of it, and pulled out my keys, dangling them from her finger. I stared at the keys, then at the vase. I never put my keys in that vase. Never. It's full of dried, dusty flowers. No, I said, the word coming out sharper than I intended. No, I didn't. I remember putting them in the bowl. I remember the sound they made hitting the wood. Sarah's smile didn't change, but her eyes got sadder. Honey, you were tired. It's okay to forget things. That's why we're here, to help you remember. She placed the keys in my palm. Her skin was cool. I looked at them, then back at her face. Was she right? Did I really walk in and, for the first time in 10 years, decide to drop my keys into a vase full of dead flowers? The memory of the clink against the wood was so clear in my head. But maybe she was right. My memory, it isn't great. The doctors said so. Mark and Sarah say so. The energy to argue just evaporated. Right, thanks. I didn't go for a drive. Later that evening, I was heading to my room when I saw it. The door to my dad's old study at the end of the hall. It was open, just a crack. A cold feeling trickled down my spine. That door is never open. After he died, I locked it. The key is in a safe deposit box at the bank. Nobody goes in there. It's a shrine, a tomb. It stays closed. I walked toward it slowly, my heart starting to beat a little faster. The house was quiet. Mark was out getting groceries, and Sarah was in the garden. I was alone. I pushed the door. It swung inward without a sound. Dust motes danced in the sliver of light from the hallway. Nothing looked disturbed. The big oak desk, the leather chair, the bookshelves packed tight, everything was exactly as he'd left it, but the door had been open. When Mark got back, I asked him about it. I tried to sound casual. Hey, did you go into Dad's study for some reason? He was putting away cans in the pantry. He paused, a can of beans in his hand, and looked at me over his shoulder. He just shrugged. Nah, why would I? The door was open, I said, my voice a little unsteady. He turned around fully now, leaning against the counter. The door? You sure? Maybe the latch is getting loose. Old house, you know. He thought for a second. Or maybe you went in there and just don't remember. He said it so easily, so reasonably, just like Sarah with the keys. Another explanation that made perfect sense, as long as you started from the assumption that my own mind was a broken compass. He saw the look on his face. He came over, put the can on the counter, and gave my arm a squeeze. Hey, don't sweat it. Probably just the wind. I'll check the latch for you tomorrow, okay? Yeah, okay. Now I'm sitting here, in my room, staring at the wall. The same wallpaper that's been here since I was 15, faded blue with little white sailboats. I'm trying to piece together the day. The keys, the door, little things, tiny little tears in the fabric of what I know to be real. And for the first time in a long, long time, I'm not thinking about the shadow in the hallway from all those years ago. That fear is old. It's familiar. It's almost comfortable. This is something new. This is the fear that the floor beneath my feet isn't solid. The fear that the reflection I see in the mirror isn't really me. It's a quiet, creeping thing, a whisper that asks a very simple question. What if they're wrong? Or worse, what if they're right? The quiet, creeping thing from last night didn't leave with the morning sun. It stayed. It sat on my chest while I tried to sleep, and it was still there when I walked downstairs. The day started with my phone. I was sitting on the couch, just scrolling through nothing, when Mark walked in and stood in front of me, blocking the light from the window. His shadow fell over my screen. "What you looking at?" he asked, his voice full of that fake, cheerful energy he puts on in the mornings. "Nothing, just news," I mumbled. He held out his hand. "Let me see." It wasn't a question. I just stared at his open palm. My thumb froze over the screen. "Why?" "Just want to make sure you're not reading any of that negative crap, buddy," he said, his smile tightening just a little at the edges. "You know, how it gets you wound up. We gotta protect your headspace." My headspace? My fucking head. I felt a hot flush crawl up my neck, but I handed it over. Arguing took energy I didn't have. He took the phone, swiped through it for a minute, his expression serious, like a customs agent looking for contraband. He finally handed it back. "All right, just be careful." He patted my shoulder, a gesture that was supposed to be friendly, but just felt like ownership. Later, I went up to my room to find a book and stopped dead in the doorway. Sarah was in there, a trash bag in her hand. My closet door was open, and a pile of my old t-shirts, the soft, worn-out ones I've had for years, was on the floor next to the bag. "Sarah, what are you doing?" She jumped, startled, then gave me a bright, beaming smile. "Oh, Alex, I was just helping you declutter. You have so many old, raggedy things. A clear space makes for a clear mind, you know." I looked at the pile of shirts. The one from my first concert, the one from my high school track team. They weren't rags. They were mine. I like those shirts. Her face fell into that familiar look of gentle pity. "Oh, honey, I know, but they're full of holes. It's time for some new things. I was going to surprise you and take you shopping this weekend. My treat." She was treating my life like it was a fixer-upper she'd bought on the cheap. First my food, then my phone, now my fucking clothes. The words I wanted to say, the hot, angry ones, got stuck somewhere in my throat. I just shook my head and walked out. A few minutes later, I heard the click of my bedroom door closing. I went back up and tried the handle. Locked. I rattled it. "Sarah, did you lock my door?" Her voice came from the other side, muffled. "I'll be done in a minute, Alex. Just tidying the last little bit." That's when something snapped. A wire that had been stretched thin finally broke. "Sarah, open the fucking door," I said, my voice low and shaking. A pause. Then the lock clicked and the door opened. She was standing there, the trash bag in her hand, looking shocked. "Alex, your language!" "This is my room," I said, stepping past her. "This is my house. You don't get to lock me out of my own room." Mark came up the stairs then, drawn by the noise. "What's going on?" "He's upset because I was trying to clean for him," Sarah said, her voice starting to tremble. She looked at me, her eyes wide and wet. "She locked my door," I said, pointing at her. Mark sighed, that heavy, disappointed dad sigh. "She was just trying to help, man. You're overreacting." "I don't care," I said, turning to face both of them in the hallway. "This is my goddamn house, not yours." I went into my room and slammed the door, turning the lock myself. The click echoed in the sudden silence. It felt good. It felt like taking a breath after being held underwater. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I just lay there, listening to the old house groan and settle. The wind picked up outside, whistling around the corners of the window frame. Then I heard it, underneath the sound of the wind. A whisper. It was so faint I thought I imagined it. A soft, sibilant sound, like someone dragging their fingernail along the wallpaper in the hall. Shh, shh, shh. My blood went cold. My heart started a frantic, messy rhythm against my ribs. I sat bolt upright, straining to hear. It was coming from the hallway, the same hallway. Shh, Alex, shh. I threw the covers off.
My feet were bare on the cold wood floor. I crept to the door, my hand shaking so badly it took me 2 tries to turn the knob. I pulled it open and looked out. The hall was empty. A sliver of moonlight from the landing window cut across the floorboards. Nothing, just shadows and silence. I stood there for a full minute, my ears ringing. Nothing. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe Mark was right, and I was just working myself up. I was about to close the door when I saw him at the other end of the hall, leaning against his own doorframe, just watching me. "Hear something?" Mark asked. There was no concern in his voice, just flat, hard annoyance. I thought I heard someone whispering," I stammered, my voice sounding weak even to my own ears. He pushed himself off the doorframe and walked towards me. He didn't stop until he was right in my face, looking down at me. The friendly, caring cousin was gone. This was someone else, someone cold and angry. "Cut the shit, Alex," he hissed, his voice a low threat. "There's nothing out here. You're scaring yourself and you're scaring Sarah. Now take your goddamn pills and go back to sleep before you give yourself a panic attack over the fucking wind." He turned and stalked back to his room, slamming his door behind him. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet house. I stood there, trembling, the echo of his words ringing louder than any whisper.
I didn't sleep at all after that. The next afternoon, a crash from downstairs shattered the silence. It wasn't a dish slipping. It was the sound of something precious, something irreplaceable, exploding. My mother's music box. I launched myself out of my chair and flew down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. I skidded to a halt in the living room. On the hardwood floor, scattered like broken teeth, were the pieces of the porcelain ballerina and the splintered wood of the box my dad gave my mom for their first anniversary. Sarah stood over the wreckage, a broom in her hand. Her face was a mask of horror. "Oh my God," she breathed, her hand flying to her mouth. "Alex, I'm so sorry. I was just sweeping behind the bookshelf, and I must have bumped it. It just fell. I'm so sorry." Tears started streaming down her face. She dropped the broom and rushed towards me, reaching for my arms. "Alex, please, I didn't mean to. You know I would never." I looked past her, at the bookshelf. The music box didn't sit on the edge. It sat in the middle of the top shelf, tucked behind a row of photo frames. You couldn't just bump it while sweeping. You would have to reach up. You would have to move the pictures. You would have to want to. The keys in the vase, the door to the study, the whispers in the hall, my clothes in a trash bag. All the little tears in the fabric, they all ripped open at once. "You're lying," I said. My voice was quiet, deadly calm. Sarah stopped, her hands hovering in the air. Her tears didn't stop, but her expression flickered. "What? Alex, no! I would never lie to you." "It was on the top shelf," I said, taking a step towards her. "Behind the pictures. You don't knock that over with a broom, Sarah." I was dusting up there first," she sobbed, her story changing. "My hand slipped." Mark came running in from the kitchen. "What happened? I heard a crash." He saw the broken music box, then Sarah crying, then me. His face hardened instantly. "She did it on purpose," I said, my eyes never leaving Sarah's. "What the hell are you talking about?" Mark barked, moving to stand between us, shielding her. "She's crying her eyes out. It was an accident. Are you blind?" "She's a liar," I shouted, the rage finally breaking free. It was a raw, screaming thing that clawed its way out of my chest. "You're both liars. All this helping me and taking care of me, you're just trying to drive me crazy." "Drive you crazy?" Mark laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You're already there, man. Look at you. You're screaming, you're accusing the one person who has done nothing but love you. You're completely out of control." "This is my house," I roared, pointing a shaking finger at him. "My life. You don't control me." "We have to," he yelled back, his face turning red. Because you can't control yourself. You're hearing things, you're forgetting things, and now you're lashing out. You're becoming dangerous, Alex. Dangerous. The word hit me like a physical blow. It sucked all the air out of the room, all the fight out of my body. The shouting stopped. The only sound was Sarah's hiccuping sobs. Mark stood there, breathing hard, his chest puffed out. Sarah peeked out from behind him. They weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They weren't looking at their poor, fragile cousin who needed protection. They were looking at me like I was a threat, like I was the shadow in the hallway. And in their eyes, I saw it clearly for the first time. They weren't my protectors. They were my keepers. And I had just tried to rattle the cage. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. It was a heavy, suffocating thing that filled the living room, sticking to the back of my throat. Mark stood there, his chest still heaving, a general surveying a battlefield he'd just won. Sarah sniffled from behind him, a final, pathetic little sound. They didn't look at me like I was family anymore. I was a problem to be managed, a faulty piece of equipment. Mark finally let out a long, slow breath. He walked over and picked up the broom Sarah had dropped. He didn't look at the shattered remains of the music box. He looked right at me. His voice, when it came, was stripped of all heat, all emotion. It was flat, dead. "I think it's time," he said. Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Her own performance was over. The look she gave me now was cold. "I agree. It's for the best." "Time for what?" I asked, my voice a dry rasp. "For you to leave for a little while, Alex," Mark said, leaning the broom against the wall. He crossed his arms over his chest. "We've found a place, a facility. It's nice, quiet. They can give you the help you need, the kind of help we can't give you anymore." The words didn't compute at first. They sounded like a foreign language. A facility. He was talking about a hospital. He was talking about putting me away. "No," I said. It was just a whisper. "It's not up for debate, buddy," Mark said, taking a step toward me. "We let this go on for too long. We thought we could handle it, but you're not getting better. You're getting worse. You're becoming a danger to yourself and to us. This is my house," I said, the words finally finding their strength. The rage from before was gone, replaced by a cold, hard knot of terror in my gut. "My house. You don't get to kick me out of my own house." "We're not kicking you out," Sarah said, her voice now oozing a sickly, condescending calm. "We're helping you. This is an intervention, Alex, because we love you." "Fuck your love," I spat. "Get out. Both of you. Get the hell out of my house right now." I lunged for the phone on the end table. I'd call the cops. I'd tell them what? That my cousin and my best friend were trying to help me? They'd think I was exactly what Mark and Sarah said I was. Mark was faster. He caught my wrist in a grip that was shockingly strong. His fingers dug into my bones. "You're not calling anyone. You're going to pack a bag, and we're going to drive you." I tried to yank my arm away, but he was like a rock. I was flailing, a desperate animal caught in a trap. "Let go of me! Get out!" He wasn't even straining. He just held me there, his face a mask of grim determination. "Stop fighting, Alex. You're only making it harder." That's when I swung at him with my free hand. It was a stupid, clumsy punch that glanced off his shoulder, but it was enough. The last line was crossed. His face darkened. "All right," he grunted. "The hard way it is." He didn't hit me back. He just used his weight, shoving me backward, toward the front door. I stumbled, my feet tangling. He was strong, so much stronger than I ever realized. I was pushed back, step by clumsy step, until my back hit the solid wood of the door. He fumbled with the lock with one hand, his other arm pinning me against the frame. "Mark, don't!" I yelled, my voice cracking. The lock clicked open. He twisted the knob. Cold night air rushed in, smelling of damp earth and cut grass. He shoved me, hard. I stumbled out onto the porch, my sneakers scraping on the concrete. I spun around, just in time to see the door slam shut in my face. The deadbolt slid home with a heavy, final thud. For a second, I just stood there, breathing in the cold air, trying to process it. My house. The door was locked. I was on the outside. Then the panic hit me, a tidal wave of ice and adrenaline. "Mark! Sarah! Open the door!" I screamed, pounding on the wood with my fists. "Open the fucking door! This is my house!" Nothing. No answer. I could see their shadows moving behind the frosted glass of the window next to the door. They were in there, listening. I beat on the door until my knuckles were raw and screaming. I kicked it. I yelled until my throat felt like it was lined with sandpaper. But the house remained silent. It was a fortress, and they had just pulled up the drawbridge. I backed away, panting, my chest aching. The street was quiet. My neighbors' houses were dark, except for one. Down the block, at the end of the cul-de-sac, a single warm yellow light shone from the front window of Mrs. Gable's little brick house. Mrs. Gable. She'd lived there forever. She used to give me cookies when I was a kid. She'd known my parents. She'd known me my whole life. Hope, thin and desperate, flickered inside me. I ran. My feet pounded on the pavement, the sound echoing in the stillness of the suburban night. I didn't stop down until I was on her walkway, running up the 3 short steps to her door. I hammered on it with the flat of my hand. It took a moment, then the porch light flickered on, bathing me in a pale, bug-zapped glow. The door cracked open, held by a chain lock. Mrs. Gable's face appeared in the gap, her white hair a soft halo, her eyes wide with alarm. "Alex? Good heavens, what is it? Are you all right?" "Mrs. Gable," I gasped, leaning against the doorframe, trying to catch my breath. They locked me out. Mark and Sarah, they threw me out of my own house." Her brow furrowed in confusion. "Threw you out? What on earth for?" She fumbled with the chain, then opened the door wider. The smell of cinnamon and old paper washed over me. Come in, you're shaking." I stumbled inside, and she shut the door behind me. I stood there in her small, cluttered foyer, trembling under the warm light. They think I'm crazy," I stammered, the words tumbling out in a rush. "They keep saying I'm forgetting things, hearing things. They broke my mom's music box, and they said it was an accident, but I know it wasn't. They're trying to protect the house, I think. That's what they do. They protect me." My mind was grasping for a lifeline, for something that made sense, and it found the only one it had ever had, the one they had given me. It's like that night," I said, looking at her, my eyes pleading for her to understand. "You remember, the night I was 10, when they protected me from that burglar. They're doing it again." Mrs. Gable stopped, her hand halfway to my arm. Her expression shifted. The pity in her eyes faded, replaced by something else, a deep, genuine confusion. She stared at me, really stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was slow and terribly clear. "What burglar, Alex?" The question hung in the warm air of her hallway. "Your father called the police that night," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "They came and searched the whole house. They didn't find any sign of a break-in. No open windows, no forced locks." She took a small step closer, her old eyes holding mine. "They didn't find anyone else in the house, dear. They just found you."